Congratulations on yet another book, Malcolm Lives, the official biography of Malcolm X for young readers. This is coinciding with the 100-year mark of Malcolm X's birth. I know you've spent a number of years researching and writing this book, but did you do it to coincide with this mark?
We did, and certainly Malcolm X is one of the more important historical figures in American history and really in global history. And I knew that Malcolm loved a lot of things. He loved fighting for justice. He loved lamb chops. He loved a good laugh, but he really loved a good book. And I thought, what better way to help commemorate his 100th birthday than to create a book about his life for young readers.
And you mentioned that he loved to read. Malcolm X, on the cover of the book, is standing on actually a large pile of books. How were books and reading from early on in his life so important and pivotal for him?
So Malcolm became known worldwide as a freedom fighter, as someone fighting for the freedom of Black people, someone fighting for the freedom of all people. But when you read his story, when you read his words, what first allowed him to liberate, really free himself, was books, particularly when he was incarcerated, when he became a binge reader. He writes about how liberating it was to begin to know himself and to know his world and to know the history of the world.
On the first page of the book, you write, "History is boring when it is dead and interesting when it is alive." In your perspective, how can history ever be dead?
Well, first, I think I wrote that passage because this book is particularly for young readers, and young readers often think that history isn't relevant to them. And so it was really a way to engage young readers with how history lives, and certainly how Malcolm's legacy is living. And so the book is constantly sort of showing the ways in which particular experiences and challenges that Malcolm was facing in his time are still with us, or particular messages that Malcolm was explaining or sharing in his moment are still relevant in the here and the now. It allows I'm sort of trying to meet young readers where they are and really allowing them to see how history is still relevant to them today.
And I've heard you also say that it was important for you not to come across as patronizing or only catering to young readers, that this book is something that adults could also read as well. Why was it important for you to straddle both generations?
Well, I think first and foremost, there are a lot of adults who are reading books that have been written for young people. And that may be because typically these books that are written for young people are incredibly engaging, interesting, quite well put together, because of course we're competing with YouTube videos and Instagram and other pretty engaging entities. But I also think, particularly in the United States, and this is certainly the case in other countries, that there are many adults who are reading at a middle grade level. Indeed, one study found that the majority of American adults are reading at a middle grade level. So when we're writing middle grade books, we're not just writing for young people, we're writing for everyone. And I think it's important for us to, again, create literature that meets people where they are, not looking down on them or patronizing them, but really translating it in language that they can understand and grasp. And I want people to grasp the life and thought of Malcolm X.
You've said life stories are the greatest teachers, and I'm wondering if you can share a life story from Malcolm X that can offer a meaningful lesson to the readers of this book.
Well, Malcolm, as an example, there's a story in which Malcolm, about a week before he is assassinated, his home is firebombed with his wife and daughters in it, and it's firebombed by one of his enemies, particularly the Nation of Islam. And reporters, after this firebombing, sort of come to the house and ask him, is this going to stop him? And he says, no, this is not going to stop me. You know, I don't fear anyone or anything. And I wanted to mention that because I think one of the ways in which Malcolm X in particular still inspires people is through his fearlessness, is through no matter what's happening to him, still recognizing that he needs to fight for justice, for human rights, for everyone. So in this moment where more and more people are being paralyzed and stopped by fear, people like Malcolm X, who was fearless, I think is really quite engaging and important.